Yeah, there we go. Thank you all. I'm seeing you all out there. So my apologies. My apologies. I'm sitting up here just running my mouth, talking to you all like y'all are listening. I appreciate everyone who's letting me know, Bishop, we can't hear you. Thank you. I'm reading what you all are saying right now. So my apologies as we get ready to go into a very special program that we're going to do today on this special day. Uh, we're calling it Remembering the Sacrifice. A couple of words I was just saying, I was inviting everyone to come on in the service now. I know some churches are not completely open up, but we are. We are to the point that we're still wearing our mask. We're being cautious. We will be overly cautious no matter what everybody else says, at least through the month of June. But I want everyone to recognize if others say it's okay to come to church service and they're not wearing their mask, you wear yours, we will find out. We're going to trust God that everything's going to be fine with us. Additionally, we know that many of you have had your vaccinations and you can feel comfortable, but just for a few more days, a few more Sundays, probably the next four, we will continue to be extremely careful. And then, even when it comes into July, which will be a year from the time that I was no longer in the pulpit, when it gets around to the 1st of July, then we are, if you feel comfortable, come to church. And if you want to wear your mask, wear it. If you don't want to, it'll be okay. We think by then, unless something unusual happens. Okay. Um, Yesterday, we had our continuation of the um, Bible B that we had, Scripture B that we had, and we had some students that were excellent with what they did. You missed it. It was those kids are just outstanding, and the younger ones, man, if we're training those younger ones like they're getting it there, then we've got a good church that we've got coming that's going to be able to take care of us as we get older. All right. Let's just say hello to a few people. I see that you all have watched out for me. Brother Darius, Sister Wilhelmina, Sister Kayla, Sister Constance, Sister Mary Carter. I'm give you the names, and there we go. Minister Eva Carson, Brother Dan. Hello. Oh, and I want everyone to remember too that we're still want to get testimonies. We didn't get a chance to get them up yesterday due to some other technical issues that we have, but we are moving forward with the things that we're trying to do for you. I want to give you the very best of everything that we can when it comes down to technology. And sometimes we stumble over those things as we go there. But I want to remind everybody we are looking for testimonies now. Minister Lyria, my sister, good to see you. Sister Michelle, and oh, okay, we've got Sister Lois Waters out there, which I think obviously is related to my brother that's going to be on the night. It's good to see you with us. Sister Tabitha Tillman, hello to you, and Minister Bray. It's great. Thank you all for letting me know you didn't hear me. And Sister Ella, and if you all missed it last Monday night, Sister Ella was catching tons of fish with the fishing ladies. She was out there doing that part of our small groups and reminding everyone that you need to be a part of a small group. And the fishing ladies happen to be one. We've got several other small groups that are out there. So we want you to check that out. Get on coming back into church. Find out what's going on. Minister Regina, hello to you. And Minister Shante, hello to you. And Sister Deborah Koga, hello to you. Saying hello to everyone that's out there. And Amelia. And I'm just going down on my list. And Sister Lynette Johnson, saw you yesterday as you come in. Great to see you coming right on in the front door and have your husband drop you off there. Great to have you. Now, having made my greetings to everyone, let's see if there's anything else I need to tell you all before we get going. Oh, remember to like, share the program. And, if you have not subscribed to us, I'm asking everyone to subscribe on YouTube. If you have not, go ahead and do that because I finally got it all worked out. Guess what, y'all? Um, the more people we get watching us on YouTube, YouTube actually makes donations to the church. So we're getting donations from them. I think we got about $500 we just put in there from what we've done before. So that's just y'all watching it. When you watch the program, YouTube pays us because you're watching the program. So I want to encourage everyone. That's a way to make a contribution to the church too, among the many other ways that we have making those contributions. All right. And then I'm reminding you too of the website that we have, GLC website, Guiding Light Church, we are beefing that up. We are putting the messages out there so that you can go out and see the sermon that Pastor Jim did or that I've done on Wednesday nights. You can read those. You can go more thoroughly through it. So be sure to check that out. And of course, you can give on the website also. Um, so go take a look as you're getting more familiar with these things. Go take a look at what's going on our website and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. If you put those notifications up, you will see every time that I do something or Pastor Jim does something. We're working to make our YouTube channel something that you can look at from time to time and get a lot of information. Plus the fact I've got a lot of other little goodies that I'm working on for you all as far as a Bible program for the whole church and then communicating information to you through a Bible app that we're doing. I'm just doing all I can right now to make sure that you have a blessed time at Guiding Light Church and you're learning. Go tell everybody else that the program is on right now. And I'm running my mouth, fixing to stop. It is about the time that I do need to stop at this point. So, Father, I'm praying right now for your guidance. And may what we speak about tonight, Lord, be something that opens the eyes of the people that are listening and that we begin to see something special about this day and realize the sacrifice that's been made by brothers and sisters and men and women that believe in this nation and in this country. And it's given us an opportunity to be able to be here with the freedom that I have to speak. We have those freedoms now because others have sacrificed their lives so that we might be able to be at peace now. Now, Lord, motivate us all to be strong warriors for you in the cause of your kingdom, as I pray now in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Today is Memorial Day. And we know that on Memorial Day, people see it as a lot of different things. They see Memorial Day as the beginning of summer. It's a time when they feel like they're going to go down to the beach and they're going to celebrate. And they do things like say things to everybody, Happy Memorial Day. But I want you to know something about Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a different day of the year. It's not Veterans Day. It's a day of memorial, a day of memory, and remembering those men and women that have fought in our armed services, that have sacrificed the ultimate sacrifice of their lives so that this country might remain free. Now, I know for some of you, you may be saying that this country is not everything it needs to be. And I can agree with you. There is no country that's everything that it needs to be. But one thing that they've sacrificed their life for, they've sacrificed their life for the belief that this country can be what it needs to be. Many African Americans have given their lives and come back to this country and face prejudice, discrimination, face racism, but they put their lives on the line, not because they knew that the nation would treat them right, but they knew that this nation has the potential to do what no other nation in the world can do. This nation is founded upon principles of equal rights, of equality, and life and liberty for all. Though it may not do all that it's supposed to do, the potential is there. And we will hear tonight from one such person that put his life at risk for this nation to speak to us regarding the significance of what this day, Memorial Day, means to him. I was not in the military. I wanted to be. A lot of things I wanted to be with my life, but the Lord never allowed that. But I believed in this country. I still believe in it. I believe in the potential, as I believe in the potential that you have. But today, I'm pleased to have with me a lieutenant colonel. He's retired now, and he was with the United States Air Force, which is where I would have been also. And he served in the Air Force for over 40 years. He began his career in 1977, just as the Vietnam War was kind of winding down. and he graduated from the College of Holy Cross, which was a Jesuit college, um, which my dear friend, Father Mitch Pacwa, is a Jesuit, and he has taught at colleges and universities before. And I wouldn't be surprised if he'd also taught at Holy Cross, where Lieutenant Colonel Mike Water is also a graduate of there. And I'm going to get him on in a minute. He's going to speak to you from his heart and share with you about Memorial Day. He has spent 40 years in the military, in the Air Force, and he can tell us a little bit about Memorial Day. It's not a day that we should just flip off as any other day. It is a day when we should be remembering those who have fallen so that we might have a better, a better nation. I'm going to bring Brother Mike on right now. I need to call him Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Water. I want to bring him on right now. Lieutenant Colonel, how are you there? It's good to have you with us. All right, let's get your level up. So we got to do that too. Got to get your mic level up. Let me see if I can do that. Talk to me again, Colonel. Okay, we're missing you. Um, and if that doesn't work, we can always do it by phone, and I can pick up your voice by phone. So because I had the same problem, and see if you can get your voice up there, and try it right there. Tell you what, we'll get around it. We got ways. Call me. I'll put you on that. Now he's part of the military, so he knows he had a problem with something else there, and we can always find a way out. And I know he's got one right here. As you give me the call, I'm going to put you online right here so they can get your voice at the same time. All right, there, Colonel. Yes, sir, you are. So greetings to my brothers and sisters out there, if you would.
Well, thank you. And I'm hearing a little echo on my end. Are you?
Well, I tell you what, turn down my volume. Turn down your volume on yours, and because I have to have mine up so that they can hear it. Okay.
Yeah, it eliminated the echo.
Okay, very good. Are you all hearing him well? I'm looking at you all to get my comments out there. Let's see. Let me know if you can hear him real well on the other side there. Okay.
Wait, go ahead, because I'm live now. My wife, she was coming in saying that she's having some sort of difficulty, like I guess with the YouTube feed.
That's all right. Well, I think we're getting you now. My sister's one of my sister, Wilhelmina Evans, has told me that she's got it, and I think.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm making an introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Do I do Colonel or do I need to say Lieutenant Colonel?
No, Mike is fine.
No, you were a Lieutenant Colonel, which was that's military honors to me. I respect military.
I appreciate that. So again, Lieutenant Colonels, we're what's called telephone colonels. I wasn't a full bull, but we still go by we're dressed as colonel.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna call you Colonel then, all right?
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, again, I want to first say it is an honor, a pleasure, and an honor to have been asked to participate in this program this evening. I am truly honored to be able to join you tonight. I do need to make one correction. When you were giving about my background, you said 40 years in the United States Air Force. No, I wasn't told 40 years in the Air Force. I began my career in 1977 upon graduation from Holy Cross and commissioning. I served 20 years in the Air Force and retired from the Air Force in 1997.
Okay.
Then did another 20 years because of my background in the Air Force was law enforcement, which I'll get into in more depth about my assignments in my military career. I then went into civilian law enforcement. I was certified here in the state of Alabama as a law enforcement officer. I served.
Well, wait a minute. As a law enforcement officer, so And was that with one of the metropolitan areas here?
No, you in that bio that I had sent also, it
Uh-huh.
talks about the fact my first job after retiring from the Air Force was I was hired by the Alabama Department of Corrections
Okay.
as their director of training. Because of my background in law enforcement and the fact that I was an instructor on 2 different tours, special duty, teaching at Air University. And some friends of ours, of my wife and I, that knew me and knew of my background, went to the commission and said, hey, we got this colonel that's coming out of the military. We're in need of a new director of training. And my retirement, complete retirement, lasted about 4 days. So I retired right on the day before Thanksgiving in '97, and Monday I was meeting with the commissioner. So I spent a little over 4 years in the Department of Corrections, and would have stayed. I had a pretty good tour and a rapid rise. I'd been nominated to become associate commissioner, one of the associate commissioners. But there were some political things that interfered with that. And 9/11 hit. And I kind of knew my days were numbered in corrections because of my background. I'd been to not a corrections academy, but a law enforcement academy. So I had law enforcement status. And I went to what was the precursor to the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Protective Service, as a law enforcement officer, federal law enforcement officer, as the area commander for Alabama and Mississippi, protecting federal facilities, property, and people, courthouses, government offices, and the like. Did that, left when another opportunity had come up about a year later to become the assistant director of Homeland Security for Alabama, and served in that role for several years. And then, as my friends in state government say, I went back to the dark side. Department of Homeland Security came called. And that's when I became the protective security advisor for Northern Alabama. You might remember, and we mentioned this the other day, that this isn't my first time speaking to members of your congregation. About 5 years ago, in my role as protective security advisor for DHS, I had the opportunity to speak at your church on the issue of active shooter issues.
Right.
And that's when we first met, and I always remember that fondly.
So what we've got then is you were in the military 20 years, then like 20 years in law enforcement,
yes,
and Homeland Security and all of this. So you've been out there on the line anyway, because now in law enforcement, even Homeland Security, that's still a challenge. Yes,
it was quite a challenge.
So you just went from military to that. You just like to stay in hot water then. You just like to stay in
Some
what?
people might look at it that way. It was an interesting career, a lot of unique experiences that I'll touch on briefly, and especially in my military career, since this is focusing on Memorial Day.
Yes.
I started as, I'm a native New Yorker originally, was born uptown New York, and my grandparents had migrated to New York and in Harlem, and it was back in 1918. My mother was born and raised there, and early years of my life was spent in between Manhattan and Brooklyn. My father is from Philadelphia. He had 5 sons. He and my mother had 5 sons, of which I'm the second. And I say that because it was significant. I believe there's such thing as the second child syndrome. That when you grow up and you're the second child, my older brother is 3 years my senior, and he was kind of the kind of guy that was the golden child. Everything he did seemed to be right. And I come along second, and it wasn't always quite so smooth. And my folks were kind of very much surprised when I told them that I was going to be in the Air Force. I joined ROTC at Holy Cross, competed for a scholarship, received a flight scholarship, as a navigator that paid my education through school. And my folks, as I said, they were quite surprised because I was about the most radical, undisciplined kid coming up, but I had always wanted to be in the military ever since I was a child. I didn't want to be president. I didn't want to be a doctor or, anything else. I wanted to be in the military. And when I first flew in the mid-'60s, I knew I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. And I got the scholarship, went through 4 years of ROTC, had a picture of the F-4 Phantom on my dorm room wall, and went on, had a good stay at Holy Cross, went on to become the first African-American Corps Commander, Cadet Corps Commander.
Now, hold on. Let's get that. You say it became the first. Let's make a note of that. The first African-American Cadet
Yes.
Corps Commander.
Commander at Holy Cross.
Okay.
And everything looked like it was, hey, the sky's the limit. As I approached graduation in 77, I got called for a recheck on my flight school physical. And about 100 days shy of graduation. And they waited till the next day. That was a big night, 100 days out from graduation. They waited till the next day. They told me they could not send me to flight school because of sickle cell anemia trait. I got knocked out the cockpit. Now, the trait doesn't change. Someone along the line made a mistake 4 years earlier when they did the medical and took the blood tests and so forth. But that was quite a blow at the 100 days before when I'm looking at, being an aviator. And suddenly now I have to, they made an offer, great offer. They said, hey, through no fault of your own, we can't send you to flight school and fulfill our part of the contract. So if you would like 100 days or 99 days from now, you can graduate Holy Cross and go have a good life. You don't owe us anything. But it meant more to me to be in the military. I went back to that fact that I always wanted to be in the military. And I chose a different career field, security police, and I've never looked back and regret it. I had mentioned to you a few notable folks that why I ended up at Holy Cross in the first place, and some notable folks. My older brother went to Holy Cross. He was a senior my freshman year. He had been part of the early recruitment in the late 60s. By Father Brooks, the president, trying to integrate Holy Cross. It was traditionally a white Irish Catholic school, all male. And by the late 60s, 68, with the tragic death of Martin Luther King and RFK, Father Brooks said, hey, it is time to help integrate this school. And he went out and recruited your first 8 black students, males, at Holy Cross. And it was a diverse group. There was a gentleman named Stan Grayson, who went on to become deputy mayor of New York. Ted Wells, a notable lawyer, power broker lawyer in Washington. And this name was surprised a lot of people. Clarence Thomas. I met Clarence Thomas when, my brother was a freshman. I used to come up and visit him. And Clarence Thomas was president of the Black Student Union. He instituted the Black Student Union. And I always found it, puzzling why his later years, a different stand on affirmative action, because it was affirmative action that got us there in the first place. And we stood on our own. We, had our own accomplishments and so forth while we were there. Other notables people might find interesting. Anthony Fauci is a graduate of Holy Cross. Chris Matthews of Hardall was another graduate of Holy Cross. So you had some tradition of, in the Jesuit education system, of some strong leader development is how I look at it. And it was a wonderful experience for me. I went on, once I graduated, I chose security police career field and served in different locations. My first duty assignment was Mountain Home, Idaho. That was a cultural shock coming from New York City and the East Coast. Went to Idaho as a young lieutenant. Next stop was Panama. You had asked me about conflicts. Excuse me. In a minute, I'll talk about some of the conflicts. And there was a conflict in Panama. It wasn't the same time I was there. Went and did time in Strategic Air Command as the Deputy Commander Operations Officer for the Security Police Squadron, the largest stateside squadron in the nation. From there, it was on to Maxwell. Got selected to teach there at Air University for a tour. Air Force IG, and then my most important assignment of my career, when I was tapped to become the Chief of Air Anti-Terrorism Operations in European Command. So that's a little bit of the background. And I just want, before I move on to anything else, if you had any other questions in there.
Well, just hearing your history there now, did you do any active duty service like in any war times? I mean, there were war times that went on there. The Vietnam War was winding down, but we had the Iraq. I mentioned to you about Panama at that time. Which ones were you involved on the ground? Any of these places? Any of those hot spots?
Okay, good question. I mentioned that I had been stationed in Panama.
Mm-hmm.
I was stationed in Panama from 1980 to 83. I left Panama, and that was part of, I was at Howard Air Force Base, which was part of U.S. Southern Command, was the MAJCOM, Major Command, that oversaw, the Army units and the Air Force units that were stationed in Panama and Central America. I left in 83 to go to Loring Air Force Base, Strategic Air Command. Totally different kind of mission.
But now, Strategic Air Command, but where was that? Where was that base? That's in
Loring, about 3 miles from the Canadian border.
Okay, I think that's United States, right?
Yeah.
So you left Panama to come there. When Noriega was there, was that before, or that was before the problems we had with?
Yes, that was before. Noriega was there as a lieutenant colonel on Omar Torrijos' staff when I was there as a junior officer. I had a son born in Panama. That was when we were transitioning, the treaty transition, and so forth. But I left in May of 83, going to a completely different command with a completely different mission.
Well, Strategic Air Command is really, that's, you told me about some. Say what?
Bombers.
Yes, I know. And you told me about some of you didn't tell me about them, some of the covert actions you were doing that you can't even.
But in regards to the conflicts, the Grenada conflict erupted 5 months after I left Panama.
Mm-hmm.
If I had still been in Panama, I would have been involved in that operation because Southern Command was the combatant command. But now I'm on the northern tier, the Canadian border, in a completely different role. And my command was not one of the combatant commands, dealing with that conflict.
But now, let me ask you though, so since we're talking about Memorial Day, I want to bring it on around to the meaning of Memorial Day. As we know, you spent, therefore we got it straight, 20 years there, but then with Homeland Services, about Homeland Services, about people who may have lost their lives.
Yes.
And the majority of us civilians, and when we look at Memorial Day, as I said, Memorial Day is a day for barbecue, to go out to the beach, have a good time. And, people are saying Happy Memorial Day. But to a person like you, though maybe you did not necessarily, I don't guess you shot at anybody, maybe you did, but people that lost their lives. And this is what I want you to speak to, if you would, about the essence of what Memorial Day is. I do have some pictures you sent me too. And I don't know how to bring those in, but let's.
You don't have a way, because the one picture with myself, my wife, and General Maud is that picture there is very much pertinent to this discussion on the meaning and what Memorial Day means to me.
Hmm.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. And thank you for this question. Memorial Day is a day of remembrance, as you have alluded to. It is a day for Americans to honor all the men and women who paid the ultimate price and gave
Hmm.
their lives in the service of our nation. And Timothy Maud, the general who was in that picture, was one of such men. Uh, General Maud, I worked for him at European Command headquarters when I was stationed there. He officiated in this picture. He officiated my promotion. That was the day I became a lieutenant colonel. And my wife was on one side, General Maud was on the other. They actually do the pinning of, my new rank on my shoulders and so forth. He was then a brigadier general when he officiated that ceremony.
Now, that's not an Air Force uniform, or is it?
And I'll explain why that is. That's not an Air Force uniform because I was at European Command is a joint headquarters. And that was important to the future of line officers or all officers who look to, move up in higher rank as senior officers. Having joint experience as opposed to just totally being stovepiped in the Army and the Air Force and the Navy. You had service in a joint command because I had people underneath me from different services,
Mhm.
Navy SEALs, Special Forces folks, and the like. And I worked for an Army 1-star. Okay, stand by. I've got to recharge this on a different electrical current.
Okay, that's quite all right. So while you're doing that, I'm thinking, I think about the Chief of Staffs, where we have our staff, and that's where a lot of they put all of the units together that they operate. And so you were involved, and that
Yes.
might have been the next move you might have made if you'd remained, would move
Yep.
with staff command. Okay. Well,
Yep.
tell us
But
about.
let me go back to this picture
Yes,
of General Maud. You
yes.
pointed out he was a different uniform and Army. He was a younger brigadier general at that time. And I have to say, one of the finest officers I ever served, I ever
Hmm.
worked for during my military career. But here's the connection to Memorial Day. On September 1st, 2011, or September 11th, 2001, the day that 9/11 occurred, he was then Lieutenant General Maud. He was serving as the United States Army's Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel at the Pentagon. And he was in a meeting when American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the west side of the Pentagon. General Maud was the highest ranking military officer killed in the 9/11 attacks. And I have thought of General Maud often over the years, and especially on Memorial Day. But it has been difficult over the years for me to talk about it because we had a personal relationship. We had been to his home. We knew his family. He would host things, and he was more than just the boss. And as I said, one of the finest men that I ever served. And for years, it has been tough for me to publicly talk about it from an emotional standpoint. I finally started just last year, Memorial Day, publicly acknowledging that relationship. And that was a difficult thing to do.
Let me
But
ask you, on Memorial Day, does that because it's a Memorial Day, does it bring back memories of the brothers that you were in service with, and those?
yes, yes.
Just the fact that
I
we
think
have.
I related to you another example of the young lieutenant that was killed going into northern Iraq using the same helicopters that I flew in and out of Iraq on in my anti-terrorism role. And I was about 2 months shy of leaving Panama, of leaving Stuttgart, when chopper got shot down by friendly fire, and on it was a young lieutenant stationed there at Patch Barracks, also command headquarters. It brings back all of those type memories. It is truly a day of remembrance. Now, I do not get upset when folks will come up to me and say, Happy Memorial Day, or thank you for your service. I understand where they're coming from, and there's a lot of misconceptions about Memorial Day. There's nothing really happy. It's a day of remembrance. But you understand, and I don't take offense when people do that, when they say thank you for your service, even on Memorial Day. I say, hey, you know, it was my honor to serve, and I would do it all over again. But let me just give you an example of something that happened yesterday that's relevant to this discussion. Yesterday, I happened to be on Facebook, and there was this local Elmore County chat, group, and a lady posed a question on there about fireworks. Are there going to be any fireworks today in Elmore County? And I'm glad I saw it kind of early, because I started writing a response for it. And I'm going to read you that response, because suddenly it began to light up. And, Facebook lit up with folks, and some of them were not kind. They were not polite. It was kind of like, well, are you an idiot? Fireworks and this, that. She simply asked the question. And the responses that she was getting were, and there were some other folks who, were the same. Hey, yeah, I'm looking for the same thing. But here's what I wrote to that lady, because as people began to continue to pile on, I felt I had to make it positive. So I wrote, Dear lady, as a veteran, I would advise you that Memorial Day is not a day for fireworks. It is not a celebration in line with the 4th of July or Veterans Day. It is a day to remember those who died while serving our country. It is not a day to say thank you for your service or happy Memorial Day. So what do you say on Memorial Day to someone who might be struggling? And that's why you don't come up to someone and say, happy Memorial Day. You might come up to someone who is struggling, a widow, for example, or someone who's been especially affected by a military member's death, like I was by my former boss. Consider the following. Say instead, enjoy your weekend, but I want you to know I will be remembering what this holiday is about. Or enjoy your weekend, and I will be thinking about those who are no longer with us. And finally, I will be taking a moment to honor those that served our nation and are no longer with us. And I closed it with, please take no offense, as these are common misconceptions about Memorial Day. Thank you. She replied to me that she was so grateful for that, as she put it, kind response. And so I also shared with folks that there is a difference between the different holidays. You actually have 3. You've got Armed Forces Day. No one ever thinks about that. Armed Forces Day is the 3rd Saturday in May every year. That day is for all Armed Forces personnel currently serving, to honor them, those currently serving in the military. You have, obviously, Memorial Day, the last Monday in May, which is today, and then Veterans Day, November 11th, every year, for all vets. So, Armed Forces Day, as I said, was currently for those who wear the uniform, Veterans Day for those who used to wear the uniform, and Memorial Day for those who never made it out of their uniforms coming back home.
I think that's important that we get it, because Memorial Day, first day of summer, is what I think a lot of people think about. And Veterans Day, it was just relatively a few years ago that I didn't make any distinction between the 2 days. It was just there. But as you say, it does bring back to you Memorial Day, since it is a day that was set up to remember those that died, that gave their lives. And
Exactly.
to a military person, when it is Memorial Day, you don't think of it as a celebrating day. You think of it as a day. It reminds you of the ones you lost. And with General Maul, you said he was on, he was on a, he was on a, was he was in, and he was in the Pentagon on 9/11.
Recently.
And then the other was a person that was shot down with friendly fire. Where were
Yes.
they? Where did this occur?
This occurred in northern Iraq. I used to, in my role as chief anti-terrorism ops, and this goes to, your question too about service during wartime. Grenada and Panama were very limited, lasted about a month's time, and I had no involvement in those. I've always looked at First Gulf as my war. Now, I wasn't involved in firefights and things of that nature. When I was dealing with in northern Iraq in support of the Kurds and a military coordinating center, you had the Joint Allies. Most of the ground war had already ended, okay, at that time. But this is where I'm talking 93. But you may remember they had made the decision not to remove Saddam Hussein from power, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Kick him out of Kuwait and so forth. Well, leaving him in power, he remained a threat to our allies, the Kurds in northern Iraq.
Yes.
And that's what precipitated me having to take my team down into northern Iraq on anti-terrorism, force protection matters. How do we better protect? And here's why that was important. While we were down there on one of these missions, Saddam was rattling the sabers and talking about sending an armor battalion. A battalion is about 600 personnel, tanks and heavy artillery, up to northern Iraq to kind of boot us out of the north and stop defending the Kurds. Well, I had a young ranger on my team that looked at me and he uttered a curse and he said, "Great, we'll load our M60 machine guns on these Hummers and we'll rock and roll south to meet." I told the young man, I said, "Hey, I certainly appreciate your enthusiasm and, because young troops will do anything for you. You provide them the proper leadership and support." I said, "But young man, there are reasons to die, and then there are stupid reasons to die. We're an 8-man team. We're not taking on an armored battalion, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It rolls north. We're about 5 kilometers from the Turkish border, and we're beating feet back to Turkey." Those were some of the things that we did. Now, it was a hostile fire zone. I was paid combat pay, but I never engaged, and I don't want people to think I was down there engaged in firefights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We travel light, rifles, machine gun, and grenade launchers and the like. But we also were never recognized, actually officially recognized for being in northern Iraq. And I had mentioned that to you. And that was interesting. Why? Because Turkey is who we had to go through.
Listen, I understand. And I don't know. I don't want to get too far away because some of this stuff gets interesting to me because I know some things about what our military has done, things that's not generally made public knowledge. And I know when we're in places when we're supposedly not there, there's a lot of this. But let's kind of stay around in here. I think there was on the Black Hawk. I want to talk about friendly fire. Where was that? That was in northern Iraq at that time.
Northern Iraq.
And that means I think people need to know what friendly fire is. We shot down. How many people died on that? How many?
By U.S. jets.
How many did we lose on that?
I believe it was about 15 U.S. and some, because it was not just one helicopter. He shot down 2. Okay. And
was that one pilot's error or was that a squadron?
That's what it wasn't criminal. It was
Mm.
Mistakes in terms of communication. We had supposedly AWACS aircraft providing command and control, and something got missed
But
along the line.
but
And
how many Black Hawks did Usan have? He didn't have any, did he?
I'm not sure about how many he had or
No.
not.
Well, but they shot down a Black Hawk is
They
a black.
shot,
That's a special helicopter, and I don't
yeah,
think the third world.
U.S. But again, it's you're fighting and firing before line of sight. Okay,
Got it.
that's why it's important to understand that what they call squawking, what signal you're sending out. Is it the correct signal, and is the AWACS control aircraft recording? They came and said, "Hey, we don't recognize this," and it's over the horizon. They're firing, not seeing those aircraft, and they launched 2 missiles and took down both of them.
So we lost a number of people, my friend, and that was now. So when we come to Memorial Day, that's something you keep in your mind too.
Yes.
Any other? Let's think about generally speaking for a lot of other military personnel. Do you think you're unique in this aspect of Memorial Day, remembering those that were close friends?
No, I'm not unique at all, because there are a lot of, we are, and I firmly believe this, and we're a band of brothers. We may fight internally with each other. That's a picture of me on the Bosnian border in Macedonia. We may fight with each other internally as a service, but, it's like any family. Let someone else pick on you, and then you're going to have the devil to pay, okay? And as bands of brothers, when those that especially have been in combat situations and have actually folks that they have worked with in their units and get killed, it's a personal relationship that they have with these folks, with their brothers and sisters. And, so it's much more, even more intense than the relationship and the few folks that I knew that died in these type circumstances. They're members of your unit and so forth that you have sweated blood and tears with. And that's why, like I said, things like Happy Memorial Day is inappropriate, but people don't mean it in a bad way.
But it's not a happy. It's not a happy time because you're remembering those. Because it's supposed to be a time to remember those that died in the sacrifice, and so that's 2 names or 2 people. General Malden. What was the name of the other person? Do you mind sharing?
I can't recall her last name. She's a young second lieutenant on a first duty assignment, assigned to the headquarters.
The first time out doing that.
First time out. And you had met, one of the things that might give people a perspective of the impact is, were you able to play those videos? Because I saw the video.
I do have those, yes.
Yeah. Because especially that first one, that shows again that relationship between so many of our military personnel. It's tough to watch because it is very powerful. It underscores the things that I've been talking about.
I tell you what, I'm going to play that right now. I did make some modification to it, but I'm going to play it for this,
Right.
And we'll talk about this afterwards. So this is a video that we put together here. Dear Madam, I have been shown in the files of the War Department a statement of the Adjutant General of Massachusetts that you are the mother of 5 sons who have died gloriously on the field of battle. I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the Republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of the loved and lost, and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. Yours very sincerely and respectfully. Washington, November 21st, 1864. Abraham Lincoln. Well, as you see from that, that spells out, I don't think anyone can imagine the type of grief, even that statement from Lincoln when he sent that to the mother, when you have to write out many condolences like that for people who give their life for this country. You said you always wanted to be in the military. Let me ask you something as an African American.
Yes.
Why would you, considering the things what we say about our military today and what we say about our nation today, if you had that opportunity, would you do the same thing again?
In a heartbeat. As I said, I tell folks that when they thank me for my service, I say it was my honor to serve, and I would do it all over again. And why I would do it all over again, because I believe in the promise of America. Just like my father before me, I got my 4 brothers, none of them served in the military. The thing that I had in common with my dad was he was Army Air Corps, in World War II. My uncle, that's how he met, his future wife. My uncle was his best friend in the military. He was Army Air Corps. Throughout history, African Americans have served this country that didn't always serve them. But why they did, when you think of especially those soldiers in the 40s fighting for freedom overseas against Hitler, and then come back to Jim Crow and segregation and lynching, why would they do that? Well, it's the same thing from when Crispus Attucks became one of the first casualties of black man in the Revolutionary War. We fought the War of 1812, the Civil War. We were there on the plains, the Buffalo Soldiers, cavalry regiments. We have supported this country. Some of those folks that were the Rough Riders rode with Teddy Roosevelt.
Right.
And, so we have been there all along, and we continue to do that because we believe in the promise of America. The fact that we are still striving toward that more perfect union. If that wasn't the case, in spite of all, what we're dealing with, and yes, there's no sugarcoating, the horrific acts that have taken place against African Americans and other people of color. It's not just us. Consider the Japanese soldiers Japanese American soldiers that fought for this country while their families were interred in concentration camps, internment camps, and so forth. We have always rose to the challenge because we believe we are still in pursuit of that more perfect union.
Let me
And that's
push you.
why I could do it all over again.
Let me push you on it because I deal with a lot of young people who believe this is fundamentally a racist nation, was founded on racist principles. Yet you are a man that went into the military. You went in the 70s. You grew up in the 60s. You experienced the segregation. You experienced the challenges. And yet you were willing to put your life online, as many other blacks were, for the nation. You did it. I ask you why.
Again, you know, I understand the frustration of so many young people that, you know, again, with when we look at what happened in this past year with George Floyd and the deaths of other people of color, particularly black men. But I do not believe that America is inherently a racist country. Again, no, it doesn't mean that we don't have a horrific past that we are still evolving. We need to remember today is the anniversary of the destruction of Black Wall Street, a crime that was covered up, buried, and no one was held accountable. People that lived in Tulsa grew up not even hearing about it. They wanted to bury the truth. But we cannot truly move forward until we have truth and reconciliation about our past. But we do move forward. One of the countries I had the opportunity to visit during my military career that kind of spurred me on still was I served in my role in EUCOM as anti-terrorism ops. I was in South Africa, Pretoria, in the lead up to Mandela coming to power. Why were we there? Because we were worried about country going to civil war, revolution, taking out embassy and things of that nature. But it gave me an opportunity to hear a lot about what Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu will put truth and reconciliation. And that's what drives me to say that, yes, even with the horrific past, and believe me, we're facing some tough times ahead. These past 4 years, the rise in hate-based crimes, it's alarming. It corresponds with the dangerous growth of white supremacists and white nationalism. We have some sincere problems. There are even trends in the military that have been impacted by this. So we have some challenges, but that's why you need people rising to those challenges and pushing us forward.
Okay, well, I just wanted to ask you that question because we have young people today that really just don't have much to say for this country. My father was also in the Army Air Corps, and
Mhm.
he was based in Tuskegee down there. And if your father was there too, I know that's where a lot of where our airmen came from, and they would come back and face segregation, racism, and all. But they fought for the nation, as you mentioned,
Yes.
each situation. I hadn't thought about the Rough Riders, but you're right with Teddy, and then with the Civil War, we fought on that side. The great movie that was Glory. But I want to still keep remembering that this day is to remember those that died, and I'm sure many of my families that are out there have people that lost their lives. Many of the mothers, wives, brothers, and sisters that this is not a day that we want to celebrate with firecrackers and all, because it's a day we remember some family out there that
Yes.
lost someone dear to them. And as you said, you can't come to this day without thinking about some of the brothers.
Bishop, can I mention one other thing that
Yes.
I think is important? It goes to your question about, our young people, and the frustration. And they ask, well, why would you still support the military? Why would you still support America? Because this is nothing new to me. Remember, I told you I came in to the service in the 70s, ROTC, in Massachusetts. Okay? That wasn't a hotbed of support for the military because Vietnam War was still going on. I was being asked by other, black students, why do you want to fight the white man's wars? Vietnam era vets were treated horribly as baby killers and the like. But so it's nothing new what I saw then, and some of those same questions that I see now. But I'm not blind to that, and I point out to young blacks, for example, when our former president called young black athletes that knelt in peaceful protest SOBs, okay, and get them off the field and the like. And yes, but there was a lot of uproar from, oh yes, he's right. These folks are un-American. They hate our flag. Nonsense. I put, and I know it wasn't very popular with a lot of folks, but I created my own bumper stickers that said, I serve so that young men could kneel. And put those on the back of my truck, and then I'd be at the commissary, and there were some folks that would come up and say, why do you have that on your truck? But surprisingly, there are a lot of folks that said, hey, I never thought of it that way, because I also wrote about it. I wrote editorials and letters to the editor where I talked about the fact of why I support these young men that kneel, that protest. Just like Black Lives Matter. I support them because, again, to say that, well, you hate the flag and you hate the anthem. And I said, hey, I love the flag and stand for our national anthem, but I didn't swear to defend those things. Those are symbols. What I took an oath to defend was the Constitution of the United States. And I didn't get to pick and choose which amendments I supported or not. For example, the First Amendment, your freedom of assembly, your freedom of speech, your freedom of religion. I supported that amendment and the rights of white supremacists and Klansmen to assemble in the town square, call me the N-word, and tell me this isn't my country. And I protected their rights because I could have been to. But if I could defend that right and their rights, I damn sure can defend the rights of young black men that kneel in peaceful protests.
All right.
And people need to remember that.
Something you said that I think is worth repeating. You did not fight to defend the flag or to defend a different thing here or there. You fought to defend the Constitution. And I think fundamentally that's a good word where we need to kind of come to a close on this, that the Constitution was put together, even though it's, it may be have done by flawed men. It was something that the principles of it are fundamental. They are based upon what truth is about the Constitution and the founding fathers. I do not dismiss them as racist as many people might say. They were. There may have been some there, but the principles. Even in the pastor, as a pastor, there are many pastors that are not what they need to be. And I've not been everything I need to be. But the word of God is fundamental, the principles that we stand for. And I think that's what you said to me earlier. You fought for the principles upon which this nation was founded. And it's up to us now, those that are living, to honor those that died, to make sure that we fight to keep those principles alive and not lose the battle in peace by failing to support that Constitution.
Amen.
We swore to uphold. And that every politician says, but I don't trust our politicians.
You're not alone.
All right. Well, do you have any concluding remarks you might want to say to everyone?
Yes, again, thank you. I'm profoundly grateful that I had this opportunity. I hope it was, my contribution to it was in some way meaningful to folks that, encouraging people, encouraging young folks. As I said, I was in law enforcement and, I'm an African American. I can support Black Lives Matter and some of their objectives, but I also support good police officers everywhere.
We might have to get you back online to talk about that because there are people that believe we should defund the police, that the police are pigs, they're and something's all wrong with the police. And you actually, when you said you were in law enforcement, uh, you're one of the ones that they're calling the enemy now. So
Yep.
we might have to get you back on here to discuss why you, again, as an African American, would go into such a racist organization to be a police officer. But we'll hold that off until later on. And please know that I'm speaking with tongue in cheek with some of the things I'm saying here, because I'm balancing it out sarcastically with what some of the people say.
Well, thank you again, and thank your congregation for having me.
Well, again, what I want everybody to know, this is Lieutenant Colonel Mike Waters, and it's been 40 years of service to this nation, which may be the best way of saying that. 20 years in the Air Force, and then 20 years in doing other things, Homeland Security, and various other things where we mentioned he was doing that was like behind the scenes. Those are those covert operations that some of which you can't perhaps share with us. But if you like it, make a comment out there and let me know, and we will see about getting them back on. So, Colonel Waters, I thank you very much. Um, and we are glad to have you on board with us. And we look forward to another time we'll talk. Maybe around Veterans Day might be another good time. And we talk about veterans at that point. So God bless you, brother. I'm going to conclude it with a video that we also put together for Veterans Day. I think it's appropriate we go out with that. But God bless you, and I'll look to see you at sometime in the future. And you take care until we see you then, okay? God bless you. All right. All right, everybody. There you go. Like I said, you can put your comments out there, your thoughts, and you can also talk to me about it too, because I am trying to build this program to give you information so that you may be more knowledgeable about what's going on. Um, my background is very varied in a lot of things. My father was historian, and when he brought up when Colonel Waters brought up that his father was in the Army Air Corps, so was mine. So it might have been possible they may have crossed paths somewhere during that period of time in Tuskegee. And you all know that the Tuskegee Airmen were some superb airmen. But for Memorial Day, we remember not a day of rejoicing, but a day of remembering those that gave their lives so that you and I might be able to experience the freedoms that we do have. Please, people, America's not a perfect nation, but one thing about it, it is founded upon principles that are noble, that are grand, and we must hold America to those things that it was founded upon. Like Martin Luther King said, all we're asking is that you stop the hypocrisy and that you live up to what your founding father said. And I think that is still the most important thing we need to look forward to do. We don't need to start over. We don't need to tear it down, because there is no other nation in which you can have these freedoms that we do have. And it's as a result of men and women like Lieutenant Colonel Waters, who entered the service, like some of the brothers we have and sisters we have within our church, that we are thankful for their service because they risked their lives. It might have just been because there was no war at the time, but for all we know, we could have had some that would have died as a result of their service to our country. Let's honor them and let's remember them. And let's remember the mothers, the fathers, the sisters, the brothers, and the wives and the husbands that may have lost someone on this day. Let us make it a memorable day to remember them. I'm going to take us out with one thing right now, a concluding statement to all of those that gave their lives for the country. And I will see you all on Wednesday night as we'll continue our study, as we go deeper in the Word of God, exclusively on the Word of God. And I look to see you then. God bless.